Aloha, everybody. My name is Natasha Soriano. I'm with the Department of Transportation's Office of Energy Security and Community Outreach. Just some quick housekeeping before we get started. This meeting is being recorded so that we can share it with others who aren't able to attend today. And by staying on this session, you are consenting to being recorded. During the formal presentation, attendee microphones and cameras will be turned off so we can minimize background noise and keep the session running smoothly. Once we move into the Q&A portion, we will enable mics and cameras for those who would like to ask questions and share comments. If you have any questions at any time, please feel free to add them to the chat and we'll address as many as we can during that discussion. With that, I will turn it over to Deputy Director Robin Shishido.
All right, thanks, Natasha. The next slide. All right, so good evening, everybody, and thank you again for joining us tonight. So purpose of tonight's call is to share with you our priority multimodal network, and which includes pedestrian and bicycle and also transit. So we just have a short agenda here tonight with some introduction background, some maps to show the pedestrian bicycle network, and then the transit network. And then lastly, open it up for a Q&A to gather you folks some feedback and input as we move forward with implementing this network plan. Next slide, please. So over the years, there has already been a lot of work and a lot of plans developed by both HDOT, counties, and also collaborating with a lot of community members here. And on this slide here, you can see various plans that has been developed over the years, and a lot of projects that have already been implemented, within our network to provide these alternative modes of transportation. Next slide, please. So the priority multimodal network is a set of strategic projects on the state highway system designed to fill the most critical gaps in pedestrian, bicycle, and transit access across all islands. As I mentioned before, this multimodal network will build upon what was already done, and it's not starting from scratch. Rather, it's going to grab a lot of the work that was done previously and just kind of bring it together so we can have one coordinated statewide implementation at network. And although when you see on this network, a lot of it is on the state highways, but the intention is to, provide that connectivity between the state system and the county system. And that way you have one contiguous system rather than kind of a separated system. So as you can see on this slide, there's going to be, hundreds of projects put out and well over 300 million implemented here in the next 5 to 10 years. Next slide, please. So in June of 2024, HDOT and Navahine entered into a settlement agreement. And one of the requirements of this agreement was to accelerate the implementation of the multimodal network. And, HDOT has already been working on this network for years. It was already in a statute here, HRS 264-142. But with the Navahine settlement, it just required us to accelerate the plan and, have this contiguous network completed sooner than later. Next slide, please. So last month, we released our energy security and waste reduction plan. And, prior to that, for about 2.5 months, we held multiple public meetings where we gathered input and feedback from you folks and, took all of that and, revised our draft plan and, finally released this final one. The priority multimodal network was a key strategy in the plan, and it was needed in order to meet the statewide emission reduction targets. And so you'll see tonight on how we're closing the gaps. But also when you're talking about transportation, here in Hawaii, it's probably the second biggest expense that we all have. And by having this priority multimodal network, it will just give everyone a different mode of transportation, whether it's biking, walking, or using transit facilities to help get around and, hopefully reduce costs on everybody. Now with that, I'll turn it over to Rachel Roper from our planning branch, and she can dive a little deeper into the pedestrian and bicycle network.
Thanks, Robin. And next slide, please. Yeah, so like Robin said, I'm Rachel Roper Noonan from the Highways Planning Branch. I oversee our systems planning section, which oversees bicycle and pedestrian planning for the state highway system. So today I'll be going over the bicycle and pedestrian component of our settlement agreement. Next slide, please. As Robin mentioned, one of the actions that HDOT must undertake is to complete the bicycle, pedestrian, and transit networks in coordination with the counties with the goal of completing this work in 5 years. In line with that, we reviewed our existing bicycle and pedestrian program, the entire state highway system, and existing land use in consideration of the settlement. We also met with our county partners to ensure we looked at the entire transportation network holistically and took into consideration key connections between the state and county networks. Based on that process, we identified projects, mostly from our existing bicycle and pedestrian program, that we will implement in the near term. In the next few slides, I'll dive into more details about all of this. I'll start by sharing more about our bicycle and pedestrian program and the project identification and prioritization process, and then we'll highlight projects that are part of the proposed network. Next slide, please. So to start, here's some background on our bicycle and pedestrian program. Bike Plan Hawaii was first developed in 1977, and as of last year, we had 177 miles on the state highway system. So for Kaua'i in particular, we currently have 15.8 miles. Next slide, please. And then our nationally award-winning statewide pedestrian master plan was developed in 2013. We have 178 miles of pedestrian facilities total, and then 15.8 miles specifically on Kaua'i. Next slide, please. Next, let's talk about how we identify and prioritize projects. So our approach is consistent with national best practices. It's data-driven, consistent with our Complete Streets policy and the United States Department of Transportation Safe Systems approach. So we're continually evaluating new needs. We don't wait to evaluate needs just when we formally update our plans every 5 to 10 years. Needs can be identified at any time. And needs can be identified by the public or our stakeholder groups. Others are identified by our bicycle and pedestrian team here in the Highways Planning Branch, or by our district offices, or through maintenance. Once we're aware of a need, we review the existing conditions and available data and develop a proposed project. As I mentioned before, as part of the evaluation for Navahine, we went back through our list of proposed projects, as well as existing conditions like land use, and just took a real thorough look of the entire state highway system. Because we have limited resources in terms of staff to design and manage projects, limited materials, limited contractors, and limited funding, we use above criteria to prioritize our projects for implementation. And we use this to develop our short-term implementation plan. So the criteria include safety in terms of crash history and traffic stress. And traffic stress can include speed limits and the volumes of cars and freight vehicles on the roadway. We also consider connectivity, mobility, and accessibility. So making sure we're filling gaps and providing access to key destinations like schools, libraries, employment centers, and parks. We also, of course, look at equity. We especially wanted to focus our bicycle and pedestrian network for those who might be more reliant on the bicycle and pedestrian modes. So these could be areas with high concentrations of youth or kupuna, or areas with high concentrations of people not having access to vehicles, or areas with higher concentrations of poverty. We also looked at greenhouse gas potential. So for this criteria, we looked at roadways with high traffic volumes, roadways that connect to employment centers, or that have a lot of tourist attractors. So we're looking for locations that could be attracting a lot of vehicle travel. And then lastly, we also look at feasibility. So for feasibility, we're looking at things that would make the project take longer or be more difficult to construct. So for example, if we needed to acquire land, or if we would impact adjacent properties or utilities, or we'd need to build like a new bridge structure. Those types of things add more complexity to the project and often mean that the project will take much longer to design and construct. Next slide, please. Okay, so now let's dive into our proposed projects. We have 73 projects totaling approximately $302 million for the proposed bicycle and pedestrian networks. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk about the proposed bicycle network. There are almost 24 new miles of bicycle facilities that aren't shared use paths. So if you notice, I'm calling out shared use paths separately because they can be used by both bicyclists and pedestrians. And so I didn't want to double count them in the mileage that we were listing. So there's going to be separate when we talk about bicycle and then pedestrian networks. And so talking about shared use paths, there are well, let's go back to the bike facilities for a second. So the 24 miles of bikeways are made up of 20 projects, and it totals about $45.1 million. And then for Kaua'i, that's specifically 5.44 miles, 3 projects, and $14.4 million. But we also have shared use paths. So that's almost 26 miles, 26 projects totaling 146 million, just over $146 million. For Kaua'i specifically, that's another a little over 6.5 miles, composed of 5 projects and $11.4 million. Okay, yeah, so let's go to the next slide, please. So this map just shows the existing and proposed network together. So what it would look like once the proposed projects are constructed. So the proposed network is indicated with the thicker lines, and you can see a lot of the projects concentrate on the town centers or where the population centers are on the island. And I think there is a project up north here, but I think it's just a little hard to see on the slide. Okay, next slide, please. So let's talk about the proposed pedestrian network. So for sidewalks, we have proposed a little over 16 miles of sidewalks. That's composed of 28 projects totaling $110.6 million. For Kaua'i specifically, that's 5.72 miles, composed of 7 projects and $32.5 million. So constructing these projects would bring the total mileage of the pedestrian network to just under 204 miles statewide. So in the next few slides, we're going to start getting into specific projects. Keep in mind that these projects were identified at a planning level assessment, so a detailed scoping and site visit have not been done yet. Design has not started for many of these. And so design will be done as part of the project delivery process, and that's where, the scope will be refined, added, revised, and specific details will be worked out and at that time. Next slide, please. Oh, and sorry, before we get into specific projects, this map just shows what the pedestrian network would look like with the proposed and existing facilities we have today. So again, the thicker lines are the proposed projects. Next slide, please. Okay. So now we'll get into those proposed projects that I was talking about. We'll be highlighting 6 projects right now. And so this map shows the locations of the 6 projects I'll be talking in a little more detail today. So let's start in the north with our project in Honolulu. Next slide, please. So this project is already in construction. It's on Kuhio Highway from the Hanalei Dolphin Center to Waioli Bridge. It's about 1 mile. As part of a resurfacing project, we're also adding a sidewalk, a raised crosswalk. And the needs criteria that this project met were connectivity, mobility, and accessibility, equity, and project support. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in this slide, it just shows a little bit more of the existing conditions. You can see, I think, the sidewalk being constructed, and then here's more of what you'll see right now. Next slide. Okay, so the next project we're going to talk about is in Kaua'i. It's 0.2 miles on Kuhio Highway from Aleka Loop to Uhele Kawa'a Bridge. The needs criteria it met were safety, connectivity, mobility, and accessibility, stakeholder support, and greenhouse gas. This project is planned to go into design in about 2027 and is estimated to cost just under $1 million. The potential challenges we might encounter are some utilities and then working with the existing parking that's in the area. Next slide, please. In these photos, you can see, or these screen grabs rather, you can see the existing facilities that the proposed sidewalk here would connect to and fill that gap. Next slide. Okay, so the next project is also is nearby on Kuamoa Road from Kuhio Highway to Wailua River State Park. So it's just under a 1/4 mile. So this one is a shared use path. It's anticipated to start in design in 2027 and will cost about $3 million. The needs criteria it met were connectivity, mobility, and access, equity, and greenhouse gas. This project was also requested specifically by the community and provides access between Wailua River State Park and Wailua Beach Park. The potential challenges we'll have to take into consideration when we do the design is the available right of way needs to be confirmed. There's an existing drainage ditch and some utilities that we'll have to consider. Next slide, please. These photos, you can see that drainage structure and the utilities, but you can also see, have a better idea of kind of what we're looking at. Next slide. Okay, so the next project is in Lihue. It's a 0.875 mile long shared use path on Kuhio Highway from the Wili Wili Road to it's a shared use path on the Wili Wili Road from Lala Road to Kanani Street. The needs criteria it met were safety, connectivity, mobility, and accessibility, equity, stakeholder support, and greenhouse gas. So this route will provide non-motorized access between the nearby residential neighborhoods and Kaua'i High School. Currently, there's a shoulder in the area. And this project is anticipated to start in 2027 and cost about $5.4 million. One of the potential challenges could be some of the intersection connections. You'll see those in the next slide, I think. Next slide, please. Yeah. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we have two more projects left to talk about. So this one is a sidewalk on Kuhio Highway from Rice Street to Kapule Highway. It's about 2.6 miles. So this will be meeting the criteria of safety, connectivity, mobility, and access, equity, stakeholder support, and greenhouse gas. So this 2.6 mile segment has periodic sidewalk gaps. And so this project is looking to fill those gaps. It's in a high density area and would provide access to a primary employment center and tourist attractors. This project is also anticipated to go into design in 2027 and would likely cost about $16.6 million. If the scope includes, it would cost at least $16.6 million if the scope were to include modifications to the bridge that's in the area. We'll also have to further verify the available right-of-way we have. It seems a bit narrow in some locations, and then also look at utility coordination. Next slide, please. And this slide just shows more screen grabs of the location. Next slide. Okay, yeah, so the final project we'll highlight is a sidewalk in the LA area on Kaua'i Highway from Hokua Road to the existing crosswalk near Holy Cross Church. So the needs criteria this one met were connectivity, mobility, and access, equity, and stakeholder support. It provides access to Kalaheo Elementary School and was requested by the community to make the town more walkable. So its estimated cost is about $10 million, and it's planned to start design in about 2029. Next slide, please. And this is my final slide, just photos of the area. So I'll turn the meeting back over to Natasha, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Before we move on to our transit network, I wanted to give an opportunity to Kaua'i County if they wanted to make any comments on the projects that were shared today.
Thanks, Natasha. I'll just briefly chime in. Thanks for sharing the projects. Yeah, I think I'll just mention that the county has many multimodal projects and pedestrian bicycle facility projects. And a lot of them do dovetail to some of the projects, more on the larger map, of course, but also on some of these 6 priority projects that were shared. I mean, most notably the one right here, this Kaua'i Highway project in Kalaheo. We have a Kalaheo Safe Routes to School project, which includes improving and widening the sidewalk on Pu'u Road that runs from Papalina Road to Hokua Road, which is shown on the map here. And then also building a new sidewalk on Hokua Road from Pu'u Road to Kaua'i Highway. So that would really tie in quite well to this sidewalk on Kaua'i Highway. We were kind of hoping this would happen sometime in the not too distant future to tie into that project. Also, we have 2 other projects that are a little further out. That Kalaheo Safe Routes to School project is probably a couple of years out at this point. We have a project on Papalina Road, which already has a sidewalk leaving the highway, but we intend to extend that further up Papalina Road and look at bike facilities as well, although we know it's a tight right-of-way. We do have an overall improvements project for Papalina Road there to tie in. And then on the other side of the highway, there's 2 roads showing going north or Mauka on this map. The one to the right, that's just a real short road that connects and then turns to the right. That's Pu'uvai Road, and we have a project to build a sidewalk on Pu'uvai Road connecting from the highway to Kaua'i Park. So we have several projects that tie right into this. So I wanted to make that known to both DOT folks as well as any people attending this meeting today. Other comments, I had a couple of thoughts. I don't know that they need to be shared here today. I guess you have one question about the Lihue to Hanama'ulu sidewalk project. I know the major cost there is the bridge widening, but there's a lot of other challenges too, I think, with some steep slopes and things. But I was wondering, is that project intended to also improve existing sidewalks on the corridor? Because some of the segments of sidewalk along that segment of Kaua'i Highway that exist are really narrow or not ADA compliant, or both, I guess, and really close to travel lanes also.
Yeah, that's definitely something, we'll look into when the project goes into design and we do our detailed scoping. So yes, yeah, that's something we can take a look at.
All right. Thank you, Michael.
Mhm.
Next slide, please. As we get in transition to our priority transit network, I just wanted to share this picture of 4 new electric buses that were commissioned back in July. I hope you see them driving around on your island. And thanks to Deputy Shishiro for leading the charge in getting these buses to the counties. Next slide. Our transit priority network consists of 39 proposed projects statewide, with 12 bus stops proposed for Kaua'i, Hawaii Island 4 bus stops, Maui 5, and Oahu, with a plethora of bus stops already, have 18 busway projects proposed. Next slide. And we developed the transit network by taking the lead from the counties, recognizing that while HDOT doesn't have any transit assets, our roadway network really is the backbone of transit operations, especially on our neighbor islands. And so since most of the county routes run along our state roads, it was important for us to understand where improvements needed to be made for safer transit access along these highways. That would also lead to hopefully more reliable routes and increased frequency. Using the county's priorities as our guide, we identified opportunities on the state roads to support their system, whether through new or improved bus stops, better connections, or to walking and biking for future transit priority treatments. Next slide. Here I'm showing a map of our transit network. The purple is our existing bus routes on Kaua'i, and the blue dots show the proposed 12 new or relocated bus stops. The relocated bus stops were proposed to help, again, with that frequency issue, and hopefully to save time and headway between buses as they bring in folks from the rural areas into the urban areas of Kaua'i. Next slide. And much like Rachel had said before with the bike and ped network, these are all proposed and not fully scoped. And so the locations on the map represent the general vicinity of where a bus stop is desired. There is still need for preliminary engineering to be done and feasibility in terms of right-of-way and geometry of the road. So this additional review is needed to determine where there may be space for a bus shelter, bus pad, and a pull-off for ease of transportation operations along the state highway. Next slide. So in short, our priority multimodal network, just as a wrap up, we're looking at 112 priority multimodal projects and $354 million of investment over the next 10 years. I will now share our website. Next slide. Before we get into our Q&A, there are also other ways to share your thoughts through our website. We do have a comment section where you're able to drop a pin on the map and describe where you might have any feedback regarding the network itself or where you may think bike, ped, or transit facilities could be used. And at this time, I will switch over to our website. To give you an overview of what our website looks like. And a QR code will be available at the end of the formal presentation. As you scroll down, we have where our community meetings are for the rest of the counties. And as this loads, we have interactive ArcGIS maps that are on our website. You can toggle this little button here to get a legend. We've broken down for the Bike and Pen Network projects that would be delivered in the first 5 years, between 2024 and 2029, and projects that would start construction from 2030 to 2035. And again, in purple are our existing bike and ped infrastructure. We can zoom in here to Kaua'i, and this is all the same information that Rachel has shown earlier. And if you are tech savvy and know your way around ArcGIS, you can also pull out the map and view it in a more interactive way. Similarly, we have the same thing for our transit network. We can zoom into Kaua'i again. You toggle this button here, it'll give you your legend for the transit map. All the projects that we talked about today can also be downloaded as a list, a PDF, located right under these maps. And lastly, as I showed in the slide before, you can head down here to submit a comment. The feedback form asks for information so that we can help better determine where your comment is related to. And again, it can be as easy as just dropping a pin where you see fit. With that, I'd like to say mahalo for listening in. I'll give you a few minutes if you want to take down the information or scan the QR code to get to our website. I'll also drop a link to the website in our chat. And now, as we transition to our Q&A session, I will enable mic and camera sharing again for attendees. We do have on the call Jackie Chong, who will help us moderate, will assist me in moderating. She will go through the meeting chat and raise and flag for me any raised hands. As she does that, she'll call on your name, and once your name is called, please unmute. And you can share, if you wish to, share your camera as well. Let me... You can choose also to drop your question in the chat too.
We have a question from Douglas. Douglas, hi.
Yeah, good evening. This is Doug Haig. I had a question. On some of your routes, you're adding sidewalks where there aren't any bike lanes. And we have narrow roads. Kuhio Highway is a busy highway. And if we're going to be adding sidewalks where there's no bike lanes, it might be good to widen the sidewalk to a minimum of 8 feet. An example of this is there's currently an improvement project on Rice Street, and they put in new sidewalk, and they put it only in at 5 feet wide. And there was room there, but there's no bike lanes. So for families to let their children ride their bikes along this section of road is difficult. So I do encourage you to look at that situation where you're going to be adding sidewalks where there are no bike lanes, no facility for bicycles, and maybe consider trying to widen the bicycle to a minimum of 8 feet, which is kind of the minimum shared use path width. So that's one comment. Another comment, we're always surprised about the high cost of doing things, but that's life, I know. But I do notice on Kuhio Highway in Kaua'i, they're doing pedestrian safety improvements right now where they put in a lot of crosswalks and stuff. And the flashing beacon system they put in is a very expensive system. I remember working on I used to work for the county of Kaua'i. And I remember putting a similar system like that. And it was in the $80,000 to $100,000 range, probably more now. And I was just curious. And I did notice that some of those crosswalk systems had street lights on them. So that made sense to do an upgrade on the much higher, more expensive pole if you're going to add a street light. And I just, those kind of details help drive cost. And so I just wanted to comment on that as something to look at. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. It's good to see you again. But yes, that's something to go back to your first comment, that's something we can definitely look at, seeing if we can make the sidewalks wider to help accommodate bicycle travel. That kind of stuff we can look at when we do the detailed scoping, when we can make notes. We can go through our project list and make some notes now of where that might be the most helpful. So if you have specific locations, you're welcome to send it to us too. But otherwise, our team will look through it and try to identify some suggestions for when it gets to our designers.
Thank you.
We have our next question from Justin Manina. Justin, did you want to unmute? Or I can read it from the chat.
I can read my comment. Firstly, before I just I just want to say mahalo everyone to HDOT for developing this very comprehensive network plan. My questions are twofold. I really appreciate seeing a number of pedestrian bike infrastructure improvements and transit accessibility, but I was curious if such improvements will also extend to intersection signals such as leading pedestrian intervals. And then my second question would be, will such pedestrian bike infrastructure be complemented with green infrastructure such as bioswales where stormwater improvements may be unfeasible or impractical, or are the street trees, particularly in urban areas where afternoon sun can just be that extra green for street tree can make all the difference for accessibility. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Justin. This is Robin. I can take the first question. So yeah, actually, we will be looking at LPIs. Right now, our traffic folks will be looking at data for in the crash history and pedestrian volume. So yeah, that's something we'll be implementing. Thanks.
Hello, Robin. Thank you.
Yeah, and Justin, related to your question about just like general intersection improvements and other things, so that we'll have to look at when we specifically do the scoping. When we do the planning level analysis, we'll take into we can make some suggestions, but then when the project actually goes out for design, that's when we'll make more specific decisions and recommendations for the intersection improvements and also your green infrastructure question. I think we've been seeing that a little bit more in the HDOT projects. So yeah, thank you.
I appreciate your perspective. Thank you, Rachel.
I I have another question. It was in question and answer section from Keith Hatcher. Are you here? You can unmute or I can read your question. Is Keith here? Keith's question is, will there be bike lanes through Hanamaulu and, how do I say this, Kaua'i? I guess
Yeah,
that's
that's from
for
Italy.
Hi, Jackie. I saw that Keith just joined us again. Keith, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Uh,
Sorry, I dropped off.
We had just read your question about bike lanes through Hamaula and Kapaya. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that, or we have Rachel on?
Well, just by a lot of the projects were sidewalk oriented. I was just interested in some of the bicycle infrastructure projects.
Sure,
A little
we
more
can.
detail about some of them.
Sure. Would Richard or someone be able to bring up a map, maybe of the Kaua'i network, and then we can kind of highlight some of the bike projects?
Yeah, do you want me to talk, Rachel? I
Sure, yeah,
know,
if you
yeah.
want to go through some, yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the bigger ones, this one's a little bit further out, so I think that's why we weren't talking about it, was doing a sign shared roadway. So this is like a shouldered bikeway from LA up to Kalaheo, just to provide a connection that's off the main highway. And this is on Halewili Road, not Kamali'i. So, it's a lower volume road, so it's a little bit easier for us to add in, to widen the shoulder enough so it's comfortable for people to bike. This is a little bit of a rural area, so it's slightly more about getting between the two towns here. I think other one we didn't really talk about was this bike lane kind of connecting that shared use path from basically going from Lala Road to Lala Road onto Willy Willy Road at the harbor end of it.
Yeah, I think she's too much.
So this would be
One was always fantastic. He was he has his own gas.
sort of, filling that gap because there's the bike lane that's going in soon on Rice Street, going from Kapule Highway down to Lala Road. And so this would sort of fill in from that shared use path all the way around for a bicycle. I think those are the only two that aren't like shared use path bike network things. Right, Rachel? Trying to, because I think the paths, this is paths in Waimea.
Waimea.
Yeah. So these are shared use paths. That's a little bit more like bicycle or like sidewalks, but just wider. And yeah, so I think that's it for bike projects on Kauai. Yeah, so currently I think in Hanamalu Maula, I don't think we're currently planning on adding bike lanes, but we might be able to add wider sidewalks if we have right of way or it's feasible. But we'll at least be able to get sidewalks in through there. Anything you want to add,
Richard.
Rachel?
No, I was just going through the Excel list to make sure we weren't missing anything.
Yeah, it was like a tiny little section somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, thanks, Richard.
Yes, Michael.
I have a question. What funding source is going to be used for these projects? Is it federal funding, state funding? Or is it a variety of funds? What's the plan there?
Probably both. I'm not sure if maybe Robin wants to go into more detail.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Yeah, Michael, so majority is, will be federal funds. We'll see what kind of grants come out, with the new federal bill coming and see if, these other grants will continue. But, at least generally it'll be federal funded, the 80-20 split probably.
Okay, related question to that. Here on Kauai, we have at least two examples. I don't think there's any more that I can think of, but at least two examples of county shared use path projects that are currently on the STIP. One is within the fiscally constrained years and one is not, that run parallel to DOT highways. I assume that's one of the reasons why those segments aren't shown for shared use paths in your list is because we already have those programmed and planned. But at least one of them is underfunded, and that's the extension of Ka'alehele from the shared use path on the east side from Midgate Park into Lihue. Sometimes right along Kuhio Highway and at other times set back a ways, but still providing that same connectivity. Is there any potential for those to be funded beyond the county's limitation for federal funds with respect to responding to the Navahine settlement, or is that something that's not really on the table?
Yeah, no, with those projects, I mean, yeah, you can always look at the grants, even the congressionally directed spending. That next round should be coming out here in February of next year. So I think that'd be a good one to look for that. And then, yeah, then we can also look at the federal funding. And, like what we've done with the other projects like Poipu, do AC on those projects. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, right now we're just trying to get them shovel ready, but once they are, we're going to be looking for funding because the challenge we have obviously is with our limitation in federal funding. We have to prioritize, right? And we've been prioritizing the road projects within our communities, all of which are multimodal, right? All of which have pedestrian and bicycle facilities at a minimum, paved shoulders in rural sections, and in our towns, sidewalks, bike lanes, crosswalks. But we've over the last 5+ years, we've been prioritizing those projects over some of the past projects for the most part. So, it's challenging to fund everything at once, and we're always looking for more funding. So, thank you.
Yep.
Do we have any other questions?
I guess one more. I know one of the projects shown on the not one of the ones you highlighted, but one of the others shown on the map is shared use path on Kaua'i Highway from somewhere in the Puhi area near Lihue out to the tree tunnel, Maluhia Road. Obviously, a shared use path that connects to that intersection of Kaua'i Highway and Maluhia Road doesn't really provide much connectivity without either an extension of that along Kaua'i Highway into Lawai and Kalaheo, or at least Omau, or the county doing something down Maluhia Road into Koloa Town and Poipu, which we don't currently have programmed. Was there any discussion or thoughts about those kind of missing links to make that one more effective long term, or just trying to get the one leg done and then get to the others when you can, or any thoughts on that?
So this is, the priority network, and we really focused on the key destinations and the town centers. We do have an additional longer list of projects that we're going to look at to connect, if we can, between the town centers and whatnot. So additional to the Navahine requirements. And I'm sorry, off the top of my head, I can't remember what's on that, but that's something I'm sure we'll be discussing with the counties. We meet regularly with all of you, to go over our projects and coordination and whatnot. So we'll definitely keep that in mind.
Thank you. That's all I've got.
Thank you. If there are no more questions, I'd like to throw it back to Deputy Shishido, if you have any closing comments for us before we end our webinar.
I just want to thank everybody again taking time out of your evening tonight to join us. And as Natasha mentioned, there's multiple ways to have more comments if you think of something, and yeah, definitely submit something to us, and we can incorporate in our plan going forward. And if no one has anything else, I guess we'll close the meeting, and everybody can enjoy the rest of their evening before the holiday.
Right. Mahalo, everyone.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.